Hi, I'm Hunter Deegan, and for my game mod, I recreated part of the map of Dome on Halo Reach. To start, I chose the map Forge World under Forge mode on Halo Reach. I decided that I wanted the map to be elevated, so I chose the grid to have an idea on how big the map is going to be. I started out with the underground tunnel area, since it would be the lowest point. I laid down the ground area first, and then put up the back walls. After I laid the floors, I put in the ramps for it to go onto ground level. When those looked fine, I put in the opening leading to the dome. After that, I put the roof on. I then laid down the ground for the area where the dome would be. Next, I put the floor where the other building would be. I then put up the top of the far ramp. I realized that creating the actual building from Dome would take too much time and be much more difficult. I decided to get rid of it and put in an in-game building. I then put up the walls around the top part of the map and built the ramp connecting the bottom to the top part. After that, I put walls in for the rest of the map. I then realized that I was out of walls to use and still hadn't built the dome yet, so I delayed all the walls until I'd built the dome. The dome, to say the least, was the hardest part of the whole map. I set up the base walls and opening first. I then put the pillars in the middle. Next, I put a block over it and brainstormed on how to make the dome the best way. I had no idea what was rounded enough for me to use. I searched YouTube and saw that someone had done this before, so I sat and stared at the dome he made, trying to figure out what he had used for the rounded part of the dome. I could not figure it out, so I found out the hard way. I clicked on every single thing that you could use in the menu, and finally came upon a rounded ramp. I turned them on their sides and set them up to look like the dome. An empty area in between them, so I turned some of the rounded ramps on their sides to cover the empty spots. Next, I had to set up the walkway area. This part wasn't too complex. I just got some 3x1 blocks and some rails to make it. After that, I had to figure out how to get up there. Originally, I had teleporters, but then realized I didn't like that very much, so I chose the lifts. I was then done with the dome, but I only had one wall left that I could use, so I chose the Coliseum wall to cover the most ground. I still had a lot of places for the walls to be left, so I decided to choose the biggest ramps they had and turn them on their side to use them as wall. I was then done with the actual making of the map. Next, I had to put in spawn points and death points for when people jump off the edge. Next, I'm going to show a short clip of the gameplay on my map. Caleb Colbeck volunteered to game test it with me. It's a small map and there was only 2 of us, so it wasn't like some hardcore game. I hit a rocket launcher, but I failed miserably and let Caleb kill me. I would recommend this project to someone creative and doesn't mind spending days building a map. It was a fun experience, but I'm not near creative enough for it. Thank you. Goodbye.